F. William Engdahl now joins us from Frankfurt. He, of course, is an author and economic researcher. Mr. Engdahl, thanks for joining us this evening. There's so much speculation about what's going on at these Bilderberg conferences. What do you think is happening today? Is there something really going on behind those closed doors that we should be wary about?
Well, I think the real agenda of these private meetings, and they're held once a year, and they have been since Bilderberg was created by certain powerful U.S. families in the early 1950s, as a way to transmit their policies into the European countries, essentially. I think what they're talking about is, number one, how to hold the glue together of the Atlantic Alliance at a time when the cracks on the seams are deeper than ever between Europe and the United States. Number two, how to arm twist the European Central Bank and the European governments, such as Germany, to, in effect, bail out the dollar by reflating, by turning on the printing presses without abandon, in order to make it less obvious that the dollar is the sick man of the world economy. So these are the kinds of issues that, for sure, Afghanistan, keeping the Europeans on program in Afghanistan, something that is looking more and more like the European NATO countries are there to protect the opium routes into Russia and Western Europe, something that many European governments are a little bit unhappy about. But the American agenda in Afghanistan is clearly not one of peacekeeping and stabilization. It's one of spreading a war through Kyrgyzstan and Central Asia. So these are the kinds of things that one can imagine is on the agenda for the Bilderberg meeting. I doubt that people have seen leaked documents about what's going on. You can make a lot of publicity about seeing leaked documents because nobody can prove that. But I think we can proceed top-down from an idea of what the Atlantic elites must be discussing to keep their game intact. And their game is essentially the Rockefeller interests in Europe, the major oil companies, the global warming lobby in Britain and Europe and in the U.S., and the Wall Street, the financial interests. And those are the key power blocks that would be represented at Bilderberg.
I want to stay with money for a second here. Bilderbergers are being blamed by some for the global financial crisis. Do you think that's fair to say?
I wouldn't lay it to the Bilderbergers. There's a lot of mystique around this Bilderberg. It's one of many vehicles. Davos is another. I've been to Davos numerous times as a journalist over the years. Another
Davos,
one is the
sorry
Trilateral
to interrupt,
Commission.
Mr. Engdahl. I just want to say Davos, of course, is a very public event. I mean, we cover Davos Summit every year.
Well, it's very public and very private. Yeah, it's very public and very private at the same time. It's
I mean, there's no media access whatsoever to this meeting taking place in Spain.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not saying it's the same thing, but the ground rules since 1953 have been no media access unless you're part of the club, like the New York Times, star reporters, and so forth. But otherwise, there's no media coverage of the Davos
Why exactly
talks.
do you think that is? Why are they so secretive?
Well, I think clearly these are very powerful people. They're people, some of the names you mentioned, David Rockefeller, Henry Kissinger, and if you want to call it conspiring, or if you want to call it plotting strategy that would not go down well in a democracy, that's more or less what these meetings are all about. And it's not really that mysterious that they'd want to meet behind closed doors, because what they're doing is a benefit of a tiny elite of financial interests and not to the multitude of the population.
Well, critics, of course, are saying the conference is undemocratic, as political decisions are made there by many people who haven't been elected but hold great influence, as you've been saying, very powerful people. What's your take on that?
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's you're not democratically voted to attend the Bilderberg meetings. A North American committee selects who from the United States will go there. David Rockefeller and people like that review the attendee list. People in the highest ranks of the City of London do the same for the Europeans, and that's the basis on which you get invited to this elite Hatsi-Fatsi club called Bilderberg meeting.
All right, F. William Engdahl, live from Frankfurt. Thank you very much for your input there.
Thank you.